Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving into a story that's part political thriller, part spiritual drama.
It's about a king who, driven by fear and a thirst for power, set an entire nation on a path of spiritual disaster.
We're talking about King Jeroboam and his infamous golden calves. This isn't just an ancient tale. It's a powerful lesson about how easily faith can be manipulated for political gain, a theme that echoes through history even today.
So, let's set the scene.
After King Solomon's death, the United Kingdom of Israel splits in two.
The southern kingdom, Judah, with its capital in Jerusalem, stays loyal to Solomon's son, Rehoboam. But the 10 northern tribes are fed up. They break away and crown one of their own, a man named Jeroboam, as their king.
This new northern kingdom is also called Israel.
Jeroboam has a brand new kingdom, but he's immediately faced with a massive problem, a political and religious problem.
According to God's law, all Israelite men were required to go to Jerusalem 3 times a year for major festivals.
Jerusalem, however, was the capital of his rival, the kingdom of Judah. Jeroboam starts thinking, if my people keep going down to Jerusalem to worship at the temple, their hearts will turn back to King Rehoboam.
They'll see the magnificent temple, reconnect with their southern relatives, and eventually, they'll probably decide to reunite the kingdom. And what happens to me then?
They'll kill me and go back to the king of Judah. His fear was palpable.
He saw his newly acquired power slipping through his fingers with every potential pilgrimage south.
He needed a plan, and fast. He needed to cut off the spiritual connection to Jerusalem and create a new religious identity for his northern kingdom. His solution was both cunning and catastrophic. He decided to build his own worship centers right in his own territory. Jeroboam says to his people, "It's too much for you to go up to Jerusalem." He frames it as a convenience, an act of kindness. He's making their religious duties easier.
But behind this seemingly thoughtful gesture was a calculated political strategy. He then announces, "Here are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt." And with that, he unveils the golden calves.
Now, if that phrase sounds familiar, it should.
It's the exact same thing the Israelites said at the foot of Mount Sinai, when they grew impatient waiting for Moses and created a golden calf to worship.
It was one of the most infamous moments of rebellion in their history, a direct violation of the first 2 commandments. Jeroboam is intentionally tapping into this dark chapter of their past.
He's not introducing a completely foreign god. He's creating a counterfeit version of their own faith. He's suggesting that these calves are just symbols or representations of the one true God who saved them from Egypt.
It was a subtle, deceptive twist that made the idolatry easier to swallow.
He strategically placed these golden calves in 2 key locations. One was in Bethel, a city with a rich history in Israel's faith, a place associated with Jacob.
It was also conveniently located on the southern border of his kingdom, making it the first stop for anyone tempted to travel further south to Jerusalem. The other calf he placed in Dan, way up in the northern part of his kingdom. This way, no matter where you lived in the northern kingdom, there was a convenient, state-sanctioned worship center nearby. He effectively created a religious barrier, a spiritual wall, to keep his people in.
But creating new gods wasn't enough. True worship in Jerusalem was led by the Levites and the priests, descendants of Aaron. They were the ones ordained by God to serve in the temple and teach the law.
Jeroboam knew the Levites would never support his idolatrous scheme. Their loyalty was to God and his temple in Jerusalem. So, what does he do? He kicks them out. He removes the Levites from their positions of spiritual leadership.
In their place, he installs his own priesthood.
And here's the revolutionary part. He appoints priests from any tribe, anyone who wanted the job. The scripture says he made priests from the fringes of the people. On the surface, this might have looked like a democratization of religion, opening up the priesthood to everyone. But in reality, it was a power grab.
He created a new religious establishment that owed its existence and loyalty entirely to him, not to God or to centuries of tradition. These new priests wouldn't challenge his golden calves. They would endorse them. They were political appointees, not spiritual guides.
Jeroboam even went a step further.
He created his own religious festival in the 8th month, a direct imitation of the festival in Judah that took place in the 7th month. He officiated at the altar himself, blurring the lines between king and priest, state and religion. He had created a complete counterfeit system, counterfeit gods, counterfeit locations, a counterfeit priesthood, and counterfeit holidays. It was a state religion designed for one purpose and one purpose only, to secure Jeroboam's throne.
The consequences were devastating and immediate. The Levites who lived in the northern kingdom, along with many devout Israelites from all the tribes who refused to bow to the golden calves, packed their bags and moved south to Judah.
They chose faithfulness to God over loyalty to their king.
This led to a brain drain of spiritual integrity from the northern kingdom, leaving behind a population more susceptible to the king's deception. The spiritual decline was swift.
What began as a politically motivated act of syncretism,
blending true worship with pagan elements,
quickly devolved into outright idolatry.
The lines became blurred, and generations grew up knowing only this counterfeit faith. The worship of the golden calves became known as the sin of Jeroboam, a legacy that would haunt the northern kingdom for the rest of its existence.
Every king who followed him was measured against this original sin. The Bible repeatedly says of his successors, "He did evil in the sight of the Lord and walked in the way of Jeroboam and in his sin, which he made Israel to sin." Prophets like Ahijah, who had originally prophesied Jeroboam's rise to power, came to him and condemned his actions in the strongest possible terms. They warned him that his dynasty would be cut off and that the nation of Israel would eventually be uprooted and scattered because of this idolatry. But Jeroboam didn't listen.
His fear of losing power was greater than his fear of God, and the prophet's words came true.
The northern kingdom of Israel was plagued by political instability, assassinations, and constant turmoil.
Not a single one of its dynasties lasted more than a few generations.
Its spiritual foundation was built on sand, and the entire structure was doomed to collapse. About 200 years later, the kingdom of Israel was conquered by the Assyrians, and its people were carried off into exile, scattered among the nations, becoming the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Their downfall can be traced directly back to this pivotal moment.
To a king's fear and the golden calves he built to appease it. The story of Jeroboam is a stark reminder of the dangers of compromising faith for the sake of convenience or political expediency. He created a religion that looked familiar and felt easy, but it was spiritually empty and led his people to ruin. It shows how leaders can manipulate religious symbols and language to control people, offering a form of godliness but denying its power. This pattern of spiritual deception didn't end with Jeroboam.
We see it throughout history and even in our own time, where core truths are sometimes diluted or twisted to be more palatable, popular, or politically useful. It challenges us to ask ourselves, is our faith built on the solid rock of God's truth? Or is it a more convenient version we've constructed for ourselves? Are we worshipping the God of the Bible, or a golden calf, an idol of our own making that serves our own fears and desires?
Jeroboam's legacy is a warning that echoes through the ages. The path of compromise may seem easier at first, but it ultimately leads to spiritual decay and destruction. The true path, the one that leads to life, requires unwavering loyalty to the one true God, no matter the cost. Thanks so much for watching today.
If this story resonated with you, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What lessons do you take away from Jeroboam's choices? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into these incredible biblical stories.
See you in the next one, and God bless.